I choose my guests for my show. Either I feel that they could be a potential client, or they could introduce me to people within their network that could be potential clients. So for me, it's a marketing piece. It is, the ROI comes with the long tail, realizing that, if I've gotten a half dozen clients a year off my podcast through the know, like, and trust, what you're going to be able to do it. A buddy of mine had a podcast. He was desperately trying to get in front of a customer. And this guy was ducking him. So he went and he created a podcast about a specific issue that he knew that this customer had, and how they were going to solve it. And what he did is he got a buddy of his who was friends with the CEO of this company that he was trying to get a hold of, to say, hey, listen, you got to listen to this podcast. It's right on an issue that you have a hot spot on right now. The CEO talked about it and then called my buddy who was running the podcast. So there's different ways to monetize a podcast. You're right. There's sponsorship. There is pay to play. The problem with pay to play is all of a sudden you're stuck, having to serve the agenda of the person that is paying to be on your podcast. It's like conferences that say, if you want to speak to my audience, you have to pay $5,000 to be a speaker at my conference. Well, guess what? All of a sudden you're getting a 30, 60, or 90-minute infomercial. That's what you're going to get if you're doing the pay to play. All you're going to be doing is you're going to be getting an infomercial. If that's what you want, if you want to give people, an ability to create their own infomercials, and that's the type of podcast you want to have, fill your booths, go for it. Charge people $500 to $1,000, whatever you charge them. They come on your podcast, they get to tell their story, they get to sell their wares, and you're $1,000 richer, or $2,000 richer, or $5,000 richer every time somebody does it. Hey, that's great, but that's a different type of podcast. If you're looking at monetizing in terms of either sponsorship or being able to have actually have advertisers, those are two different animals. Sponsors are there because they sit there and say, okay, we think that there's benefit of doing this in terms of brand recognition. Somebody is sitting there going, there's reason for us to be aligned with this podcast, and we're going to do this. People that are advertising are only going to do this if they see that there is a number of downloads on a regular basis. And realistically, unless you're taking 50,000 downloads on a regular basis, you're not going to make enough money to survive. There's just not enough money in creating advertising to be able to make the podcast go. So there's lots of different models. It all depends on, is this a marketing piece for you? Is this a branding piece for you? Is this a client acquisition piece for you? Is it a way for you to use your podcast to backdoor into finding somebody? There's lots of different ways, that you're going to make money off a podcast, but it's usually not the way that you thought, which is pure advertising.